Don in London, hello. April 2nd, 2013. My video's all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. If you've seen them before, you know it's all about how to make life work sober. Excuse me. So, my story, if you like, very briefly, is drink got me in the end, and it was my best friend, and then my worst enemy, and I needed a way to move forward. So in the end, at rock bottom and beyond, I had to get some professional help to get dried out. On the National Health Service, no, it was a charity actually which did it, called Rugby House, and they took me in for 3 weeks and dried me out, and then suggested I needed more professional help in another charity. And then eventually the suggestion was from the professionals that they could not provide support that was needed on a daily basis or a weekly basis, because it was far too expensive and it required one-to-one or something to make life work again. So we can learn things and know things, but then turning it into practice is quite a different matter. So from going from the theory, the thinking part, to doing things practically, we need support. Well, at least I did. I'm sure there are some very strong-minded people who can do it on their own in some fashion. But I needed a broader experience and to listen. And so people suggested I went to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, a fellowship, and the very idea of joining something at that time just seemed horrible and wrong. But I did go in the end, and I persevered through some very hard times trying to not drink. And because I decided this was going to be a way forward and it could save my life and give me a life, I went with it. And it was very difficult at the beginning, but the Fellowship of AA has taught me an awful lot about how to live life with freedom to choose what to do next. So I'm very grateful, and this is the thing about fellowship, it's a fellowship of individuals, human beings, who decide where they share what they share. So I share here about AA and how it helps me, but I am not a spokesman for AA, and I don't speak for you if you're in the fellowship. You know that, because nobody speaks for another person. In fellowship we are but trusted servants, not leaders, and that's that. So this is just me speaking about how it helps me, and if you feel that fellowship might be right for you, it's the many voices, the many people in fellowship who share, who help. So one voice is not enough. I'm not enough, not by any means, and I'm not a teacher and I'm not a guru. I'm just sharing how it works for me. So I share the AA preamble so you know where I'm coming from and what's to be expected if you get there, and then something about the steps, the 12 steps of AA, and April's all about step 4, and I'll come to that in a moment, but first I'll share the AA preamble, and it goes like this. Shared at every meeting, at the beginning, hopefully. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. That's what we do, share experience, strength and hope around a common problem, alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and I didn't have a desire to stop drinking. I was just looking for a way out so I could go drink again, but that was me. So not a good student at the beginning. Who is? We have to be teachable eventually or we die. Anyway, the only requirement is to turn up if you're interested in finding out, well, even if you're uninterested in finding out, as I was, about how to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, so there's nothing to stop you coming to a meeting. we are self-supporting through our own contributions, so we scrape by. We don't have large amounts of money in case they become an issue. We don't want to have loads of money. We want just enough. Just enough. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. However, everybody in AA may be in a sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, and we may engage in controversy, and we may endorse or oppose causes, and we hear all about it because it's part of experience, strength and hope. So inside all of that is, how did they get sober with all those things going on? And the answer is, they did. So we hear a bit of something, which is wisdom, and then we go back to our primary purpose, which is, our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So it's a joint effort. You know, one person can't save another person, because one person is more likely to pull another person back down into the mire. So we try to avoid putting people on pedestals, and we try to avoid people becoming gurus. And I'm not a guru, even though you might see me looking a bit like a Buddha in some of my posts. I am not a guru in any shape or form. I'm just another ordinary person going to AA. And I was asked to do these videos specifically by people who wanted more of a way forward to try and get the message across to people they knew. So sometimes people can't get to meetings because of disability, which could be me, or sometimes people just aren't close enough, or they're so far away from anything, you're on your own, and that's no good. So the good news is, there is an AA website out there with all the literature and how to get it, and there are hundreds of thousands of people sharing their experience, strength and hope online. So I'm just one of many sharing experience, strength and hope, and that's what I've got here. So I think I picked up the wrong one. It just says, right. Ah yes, I've just put the wrong date on, sorry about that. A few seconds of pause. It's always good to pause if you're not sure, and not try and bluff something. So I'm just going to double check to make sure when I put it out there on the internet that it's got the right date on, April the 2nd. It's good you can do these revisions as you go. That's a bit like life. You know, it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. So today, an error. Am I still on? Yes. So April for me is about the fearless moral inventory, and I call it the fearless inventory, because once we've done it, and a self-appraisal of what happened to us, our assets and liabilities, what happened to us, what we did well and what we did not so well, and also ugly bits as well. So this is where it comes to. It comes to truth, love and wisdom in the moment of now, hopefully. This is where we get to. Living the truth, love and wisdom of now. We can make progress towards finding the truth of who we are today. The step 4, fearless moral inventory, opens the door to all manner of recollections over the years. And sometimes the disasters of times past can still come back as a jolt, reminding us that because of our fear, our pride and ego, or even simply being unaware of love being expressed towards us, we miss something. Resentments at what we missed can be haunting, until we recognise and cherish what we have missed and learn to let it go. And there was a very lovely young lady when I was very young, well, about 20-ish, and she was 19-ish, and we worked together, and I adored her, and I missed all the blinking clues about where you're going tonight, are you doing anything, and you know, she used to come in on a day off to say hi, and I missed it all. And then anyway, the point is, fear, pride and ego stopped me from sharing the truth of how I felt. And the absolute truth of it was, I missed the boat because she was lovely, and then somebody else thought she was lovely, and off they went. So we learn, and it happens often in our lives. We miss what's going on, and then we suddenly realise, hang on a minute, if only I had a bit more courage, faith and confidence, that'd have been all right. But I didn't have it then. So when I was much younger, I was a shy person, and to overcome this shyness I put on a bold front, pretending to be okay with the world, when clearly inside I was in turmoil, hence not seeing the obvious clues. A chameleon, a man who could understand situations and boldly go into all manner of different organisations, yes, this is true, ready to evolve into anything and be the person needed in the organisation, to the point where I became whatever the organisation wanted me to be. A desire to succeed, this is me, romantically, materially and financially. And there's nothing wrong with a desire to succeed if you have a clue about where you're going with your life. But, you know, when I was starting out, I had no chance. I just had to get the job which paid the most money, because there were family problems with finance, and this affected all of us in the family. So nothing wrong with a desire to succeed as long as you've got a clue. I don't feel that I've ever really enjoyed my success in business. It was always on to the next thing. I was always looking for the next opportunity, and romantically I would find myself in very good female company and often be the person who could be desirable, I guess. But the man inside was still confused about love. I was. I really hadn't seen any real and love, and that's just the way it was, because it was superficial at that time. Yes, romance, good at starting relationships and completely at sea, getting entangled over and over again. Lonely man out there clubbing, lonely girls, same, I guess. As the song goes, time after time, and fear, pride and ego were not good companions back in the day, pretending to be alright, covering up. So with the benefit of hindsight, when I look back, I really didn't have much of a clue when it came to love. There was certainly love inside me to express, and I did. And yet fear very often stopped me from expressing my true feelings. Ego and pride, a thin veneer of protection. The good news today, now I'm letting go, and I have, to a large extent, but some will still remain. Letting go of that fear, pride and ego really opens the door to a new way of life. It does. So developing courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, which is often simply expressing the truth, and the confidence to share the truth makes anything possible. It doesn't mean you're going to get, it does not mean that my desires will be reciprocated. It doesn't mean that people will feel the same way just because I feel like that. We're all where we are. So the point is, if the truth is out there sooner rather than later, there's no suffering. Might be a bit of hurt. Oh well. But at the end of that, you know, how you love people is how you love people. It's not with conditions of being reciprocated or not. It's how you want to be as a human. And this is what the 12 steps are all about for me. The good news today, letting go that fear, pride and ego really does open the door. Courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, which is simply expressing the truth, and the confidence to share the truth makes anything possible. It simply means I can tell the truth one day at a time, and romance happens and can flourish in an open, honest and willing way. You never know, you do not never know, in my case, the right girl at the right time in the right place, with empathy and mutual affection. All these things, anything can happen, there is always hope. I'm still smiling when I write this because it's true. With courage, faith and confidence, romance has happened. Definitely. And although I may be single today, hope springs eternal, because it does. You know, the thing is, I was sharing with my best mate about love. Yes, we've talked a lot about it actually. And love is different to cherishing love, loving people, is quite different to romantic in many respects. So, I don't know where we got to with it. We both agreed that we were in a good place. Anyway, step 4 does require courage, faith and confidence to be yourself and not know the answers to everything. Courage to face up to the person we have been and what happened to us. This is with step 4. Faith in the process of looking at our history and where things went badly and also where things went well. And we gain confidence by writing down and often working with other people how to express the good, the bad and the ugly bits of what happened in the past. Sharing and beginning to understand the past can be done in so many different ways. I talked about the big book way yesterday. The reason why I make my videos to share experience, strength and hope is because sometimes it's very difficult to write, and without doubt some people cannot read or write and need some help. And some of the most creative people I've met have no desire to write anything down ever or at all, and needed to share their inventory by talking and understanding the fearless moral inventory through discussion. However we get to the conclusion of the inventory, which shows how the old life hampered our emotional and spiritual experiences, whatever method works for you is the best it can be. And when in my early days I had the misfortune to be dyslexic, and I still am, which is why I like typing, or I like being able to speak and the computer writes it for me and gets the spelling right some of the time. So however we get it out, sometimes words when I looked at them just meant nothing to me. I couldn't work out what they were. And apparently my spelling as a youngster was very creative, according to my mother, who is still about, and it makes her laugh and it makes me laugh. But at the time I was shamed because I was left-handed, which is not a good thing. I wasn't caned like some people used to be, but if you're slightly odd, then it can be difficult to conform, and the more you try to conform and do what people say, and it's difficult, the more you rebel and run off into the fields like I used to. Anyway, coming back to today, when I look at my life with the help of the fearless moral inventory, it's very obvious that the type of living I enjoyed for many years kept me on a superficial level in so many relationships. It did. The culture and ethics of the time, work hard, play hard, and not consider the consequences. That fast life could not be lived on a deeper emotional level. And the deeper emotional level was always filled with alcohol and oblivion in my case. The most important ingredient of life is love and being able to cherish. It is, for me anyway. And during those years, heading to rock bottom was more about endurance, and nothing much could survive the punishment. And I feel this is true for everyone who gets to rock bottom. Nothing much could survive the punishment. Complete loss of identity, and then loss of hope, and only oblivion and desolation. Yeah. I do need to write it because I feel everyone who has had this rock bottom, by saying it and expressing it, it is a hard truth. It's a hard truth that we got to a place of nothing and desolation. Bleak, black, angry, rageful, horrible, and turned inwards in my case. And the truth of those times makes it possible to realise that the 12 steps offer not only redemption, which is a way out, they offer a way forward into how to love, how to be loved back and find usefulness in our endeavours. So we just find useful things that we can do, work or whatever it is, or through whatever channel. As we start to cherish ourselves, it becomes possible to love and cherish without conditions. This is why we were having a giggle here yesterday, that we do cherish and love each other. Who knows? It's just the way it is. It's great. I don't know if there's a bit of fear there, but there probably is on my part. Anyway, I admit Step 4 felt like a punishment to start with, and a harsh reminder of the past and my part in it. And this was then tempered with the knowledge that not only was I doing the best I could at the time, I was doing the best I could at the time, I was doing the best I could. But the same was true for everyone else in my life. Everybody right now is doing the best they can, good, bad or ugly. It's just the way it is. And when we realise that blame has no place moving forwards, and that forgiveness of ourselves and other people is possible, our new life is enriched and more deeply felt. Forgiveness is truly possible for anyone who can admit and accept their history. And depending on what you've done, there are consequences, of course. You only have to go do prison service and see and share what happened to people, and the consequences are dreadful. And now they know better, but the consequence is they're still locked up. Anyway, there will be things we do not like to admit and accept, and those dark, deep secrets and hurts will only haunt us if we don't let them out. Some people say secrets keep us sick. Well, for me, I know that, and I knew that secrets kept me stuck, and they did, because when I had a nervous breakdown, I tried to bounce back and pretend I was all right. And conventional, old-fashioned wisdom says, pull yourself together and get on with it. Well, that's what I did at the start, and it broke me 30-odd years later by pulling myself together and giving myself a kick up the backside. And always it was my fault, not yours. It was me. It's not you, it's me. But actually it was both of us, or a whole of us, who were not connecting in some way or other. And you can't just write it off as either your fault or my fault. Blame plays no point. There is no point. Now, I was listening to an interview with an atheist. This is called Hard Talk on the BBC. Excuse me. A very important interruption there. But anyway, where was I? Yeah, and in fellowship we need to hear all versions of the truth. This is it. Ah, yeah, here we go. I was listening to an atheist on the BBC being challenged about their views, and they were very profound in their opinion that human beings were evolving, and whether a person is an atheist, an agnostic or a believer, there is always common ground. The common ground in fellowship is based on sharing experience, strength and hope where we are, and the experience, strength and hope improves with time for each individual. So we're learning, we're in a learning situation always, and this is about humility to keep on learning too. Common ground, and the experience, strength and hope improves with time for each individual, and we all live in the same day. We are. So whether we're a newcomer in fellowship, a newcomer in fellowship, or have a few years in fellowship, we're still in the same day. And the way we see the truth of now is different. We perceive it differently. So when I was a newcomer, hearing the experience, strength and hope of some people just made me feel like I wanted to run away and go to the pub. And then I listened to other people who had a similar message to my own story, and I sat still and could listen to them and laugh at their jokes, which were just terrible, just like mine. So sometimes when we hear the truth, love and wisdom of now, sometimes the person sharing is very persuasive with their selective truth. So don't forget, we are able to tell tall stories as well as lies, damn lies and statistics. It's like anywhere else in the world. So sometimes you will hear truth, love and wisdom of now. Sometimes the person sharing is very persuasive with their selective truth, which is lies. Their selective wisdom, which is not so good, and their particular brand of love. So, we are as good as we can get today. So some people still don't know what love is. They just think it's let's jump onto the next person and the next person, because that's what they've always done. And actually that's not love, that's lust. So in the fellowship we need to hear all versions of the truth, which comes out as experience, strength and hope. We're all learners every day. And what the interview... Excuse me again. What is happening this morning? Anyway, yes, in fellowship we need to hear all versions of the truth, which comes out as experience, strength and hope. We are all learners every day. And what the interview told me is that truth, love and wisdom works through people. So we all have truth, love and wisdom in us. And the truth improves as people improve and see life in a completely different way. So if I stop and let go fear, pride and ego, then courage, faith and confidence can come into what I'm looking at. So, and then truth, love and wisdom does improve. When it comes to personal beliefs and outlooks, I don't debate from any particular belief system. I don't, because I'm not here to persuade anyone to anything. I am happier living in the moment. Loving and cherishing people is good enough today. And through time, relationships are deeper and more meaningful with those we come to love and cherish. And that is true, like my best mate. Yeah. Who would have thunk it? Open, honest and willing is where we start every day. And when we are not open, honest and willing, the day may be very difficult indeed. When we clear the wreckage of the past, we see the brightness of life rather than its darkness. So we let go pride, ego, fear, look at it, deal with it, understand it, why, who, what, when, why and how, the resentments and anger, chewed inwards, inward rage, which leads to abject depression. Abject depression is not nice, especially if you've got clinical depression to start with. So we clear the wreckage of the past, we see the brightness of life rather than its darkness, and we stop trying to fix ourselves and the world. So rather than trying to fix ourselves and the world, we start to live and be ourselves in the world as it really is, one day at a time. The interruptions are about my washing facilities. The pump's gone on the drain. It's a wet room and it's inconvenient, and it always goes wrong. Once a year there's something wrong with it, or sooner. I'd rather have a bath, to be truthful, but apparently a bath is out of the question. So in the old days, fear, pride and ego say, how dare you just fix it, which is a weak Wednesday. A weak Wednesday. I'm going to smell bad by then. No, I'm not. I've had worse. But a week Wednesday is quite a long time to be out of action in the old showering department. I'm sure I can come to some sort of other arrangement around here. Anyway, you see, there's two ways of looking at it. It's dark and bleak, and what am I going to do? Or, so what? I'm not going to die because of it. No. And 2 visits in a few minutes. What that meant was an inspection of the motor proved it's faulty and it's difficult to get a new one. So a week Wednesday he came back to tell me, and that's because I was courteous, kind and nice to him. And it could have been quite different, and he could have gone off and had a really bad day if I'd used my pride, ego and fear of not being taken account of in this whole thing. He's doing the best he can, and I'm not going to get in the way of that. Anyway, I might just tell him I prefer a bath, but I don't think it's going to happen. So this is how it is. We do what we can with what we have. There's no harm in asking, but I don't think that's going to happen. We'll see what happens next. Meanwhile, this is it. The step 4 inventory has taught me a lot about how people used to treat me using pride and ego, and how I retaliated with my pride and ego. There's no need to. There's no need to make a person feel diminished because they can't fix something straight away. It's not their fault. So let that go. But I will ask about a bath. I prefer a bath to a wet room. I know most people say, oh no, a wet room's better. Not if you want to take the weight off your bones, it's not. Anyway, enough. I'm alright today. That's all that matters, really. Start the day afresh. I've been up for hours, and I'm enjoying the lightness of springtime, even though it's blinking cold. What helps? The can do, can't do. Can do, can't do, and the wisdom to know the difference. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, that the motive for the wet room won't be here till a week Wednesday. Courage to change the things I can. I know there are alternative ways of getting washed, even if it's inconvenient. And the wisdom to know the difference is, I don't have to be sour about that. People are doing the best they can with what they have, and I admit and accept it's a bit of an intolerable situation, but I can live with it, and it doesn't need to diminish me or my life at all today.